What's up, motherfuckers? In the round 4 of the World Cup, Matthias Bluebaum has been eliminated by Alexander Donchenko, another player of Germany. At this, Matthias has been qualified in the Grand Swiss of the field because he won the tournament. No, or he finished in the second position, I don't remember. So, but he and Anis Giri qualified in the Grand Swiss, so he's in the candidate. But Alexander Donchenko is making a great tournament and a great World Cup, and he maybe could qualify two candidates. So let's analyze the decisive game of this match. In the first game they draw, so the second game was decisive. Alexander opened with with C4, E6, knight C3, D5, and now they reach a queen's gambit with D4. And here, okay, the black have many moves. Knight F6 is the most common, but Matthias select the move Bishop B7. The idea is avoid the cardback, the extractor, for example, with knight f6, c takes, e takes, here bishop d5 was the main move, but and the idea with bishop e7 is avoid that lines. But the problem of bishop e7 is that now white can develop the bishop to f4. And okay, if you want to play bishop d6, you are going to make that into tempos, and you didn't want. So now white change his strategy, and instead of pin the knight on f6, he now just develop the bishop to f4, knight f6, and now e3, sword castle. And here the main move was bishop d3, just make a normal development in the cardback extractor with bishop d3. Later, for example, c5 was the correct breakthrough here. Knight g2, the typical move. Knight c6, sword castle. Bishop g4 here to put some troubles, and now we can take h3. And okay, here white have the bishop pair and a slightly advantage. So, but okay, bishop d3, that's the main move. There are like 1000 games, I remember. Yes, like 1000 games with bishop d3. And Donchenko select the move bishop, select the move h3. Who there are only 9 games. It's a great surprise in the opening to make a move where only nine games and where you have option with 1000. Okay, the move h3 is completely logical. It's not. I cannot call that like a strange move because this is common. And because the bishop is coming to e4 in many lines, so you just stop the move bishop d4, and especially you just want to develop the knight to f3 because in this type of lines the knight used to go to g2 because if you develop the knight to f3, the move bishop d2 is going to be more annoying. So the idea is of h3 is just play knight f3 in the next move. Is the idea of h3. Now c5, the typical breakthrough of black, and now knight f3. 96, and white keep his bishop on d3, on sorry, on f1, instead of develop early to d3 because his idea now is play bishop b5. That's the white's idea now. C takes, knight takes, queen b6. Blueman was playing great until here. About both players are playing fine. Sword castle, and now Matthias decides to trade queens. And here, okay, we reach a endgame where the pawn structure is symmetrical, but white have a little bit more pressure. Especially because his both bishops are better placed than the black bishop. Let's see that the two white bishops are controlling the two important diagonals in this position, and the two black bishops are not. Simply are just are bad place. So that's the difference of white position and black position, the two bishops. That's no more. The rest is symmetrical. Both knights, rooks, and the pawn structure are symmetrical, but the huge difference here is the bishop. Of course, the advantage is not so huge, but yes, is the difference between the bishops makes a small difference. So white is slightly better here. Okay, here blue one comes with a6. I don't know, maybe he is scared about some ideas with knight b5 and later knight c7 or knight d6. But I prefer just develop the pieces and play rook fc8, rook fe1, a6, and later double rooks on the c5. The problem of the move a6 is that now you have a hole on the b6 square. Of course, you are stopping knight b5, but now you create an extra weakness in your camp. So knight a4, very good move of Donchenko using the black weakness. Knight d7 and now b4, very good move. Of course, if you cannot take here because just rook b1 and later you move, I don't know, rook 7 and looks so promising for white. You activate the white rook for nothing. So here he played bishop f6. Okay, it's not a bad move, but I prefer a little bit just try to activate the rook because he played many moves, many moves with the rook on f8. I think that Matthias should activate the rook early with rook fc8. And okay, bishop f6 followed by bishop e3 could look logical. Okay, I accept that bishop f6 is logical, but now if not okay, Matthias doesn't play bad, but he spent many times, I mean, many moves with the rook on f8. So I just prefer to develop the rook. Or if sorry, b5, that's another option. Knight c5 and knight b6. This is not easy to play, of course, because you are giving to your opponent the square of c5. But okay, you are taking the c4 square, so that's compensate more or less. Bishop b2, and okay, you say you have a good knight. I have a good knight too. White is still having a small advantage thanks to the f4 bishop who control the long diagonal. By the way, the position is close to be equal. Here, I know to explain that here a4 does the typical move here, trying to open files and attack b5. That's the logical move to open his pieces. Okay, bishop f6 played by Bluebaum, normal move. Bishop e3, and now he made a good maneuver with the knight because the knight is bad placed on d7. So he tried to improve the knight from d7 to c6 via b8 was fine. Again, I prefer a little bit rook f8, but knight b8 is fine. Knight b6, rook a7. Until here, both players are playing so good. Here, Donchenko plays f4. Oh, okay, it's not the favorite move of the machine, but I think that is so interesting because you are coming with g4, f5, g5, and you're taking more space in the king side. So I really think that f4 is a very good move. Rook c1 or a3 are another possibilities, but I really like f4. I think that that's the correct plan for the position. Try to take a space in the king side too. Because okay, now I have the full control of the queen side with the pawn on b4, so now it's time to take more space in the king side. Like Alikine said, I try to take a space in both sides and take advantage in both sides of the board. Bishop d8, knight a4. Okay, he attacked our knight. We should go back. Knight c6. Finally, Bluebaum make his plan of improve the knight. And now a3. And here, Bluebaum plays f5. I suppose that he is scared about some ideas with d4, f5, and allow that white take space in the king side. The problem is that black have not enough development, and yes, especially the rook is so bad placed on a8. And yeah, especially the problem is the rook, but black pieces are not good coordinate to play f5. He have two ideas with f5. The first is yes, try to not allow white to take many space in the king side and try to maintain the pawn structure symmetrical, who is true. The pawn structure is symmetrical, but the black pieces are misplaced, especially the rook on a7. And the knight on a4 is so good, so no, because of course it's coming to c5, not because knight on a4 is good, but because the knight is coming to c5. And yes, the black position is not ready to try to fight for the completely equality. And yes, for the completely equal was better to accept that okay, you are slightly better, white is better in the king side, accept that your opponent take a space in the king side and try to fight with h5 and now rook 8 and put first the development and instead of try to equalize completely this. Just you should accept that white is better here and makes normal moves and accept that okay, white is going to take some space in the king side, but I'm going to try to hold that. But yes, f5 is so aggressive, and so yes, you have no enough good position to play f5 here. Okay, f5, rook c1, bishop f6, rook e1, rook a8, a8, sorry, good move because the rook is completely misplaced on a7, knight c5 attacking the bishop c8. But now we can see, okay, pawn structure are equal, yes, are symmetrical, but let's see the difference between the pieces. Black still having his bow rooks in the initial position, well, the initial, you understand me, the a8 and f8 positions. The bishop is on c8, in the initial position too. The white knight is on c5 and his opponent knight is on c6. There are many differences between white pieces and black pieces. So, apart of that, Blueman doesn't. I don't know why he take on d4. So he played knight d4, which is a very bad move, who lost the game immediately. I don't understand why he made that, because Let's see, White have all his pieces, yeah, like I told, White have all his pieces good place. What the fuck, he have his two rooks in the open file. This knight is active, and this bishop, normal, this bishop is coming to a2, and with black you have all your pieces in the initial square, and you try that you can take, you think that you can take a central pawn and open all the files, so you cannot make that, you should just develop the pieces, so for example, here black should continue with rook d8, developing one rook, developing the other rook, now improving the king. So that's why black should play. Just try to improve the pieces, be humble, and not just take the pawn. Why you can think that you can take the pawn if you have no pieces developed and you have all your pieces bad place and your brain have all the pieces good place. So 94 very bad move. And after that, the rest was more or less easy for Donchenko because now all the tactics are going to work. Because yes, your pieces are good placed and your opponent pieces are not good placed. So bishop a2, rook d8, bishop f2. Now open the e file, and now very good move. Knight a4, open the c file. Now white open his two, yes, the e and the c file, and white is winning here. Apart the knight is coming to b6 to later take on d5. So finally, well, white take back the pawn, and he still having the pieces better place and all the open files. So rook d6, and now he take the bishop pair. Very good idea. The game is open, so you just should take the bishop pair and just fuck your opponent structure and destroy or whatever you want to talk. King f1, bishop b7, rook c7. Good move. Activating the rook. Okay, he tried to yes, the bishop on e4 is great, of course, but now rook h7 and one pawn falls. And now after trade two rooks, of course, this position is winning with with the bishop pair and an extra pawn. And he just pushed the h pawn and he won the game so easy. So very good victory of Donchenko who advanced to the next round of the World Cup. So let's see if he is still advancing in rounds. Bye bye, motherfuckers.